Hi everyone, it's Tawney. If you are new here, thank you for coming to check me out. Check out my channel. I film mostly beauty / makeup videos. Every once in a while I would do a vlog that includes lifestyle, sometimes home. I'm trying to incorporate that into my channel, but it's been a little bit slow just because of everything going on. But if you would like to, subscribe to my channel and ring that notification bell down below so you get notified when I upload videos. Typically it's every 3 to 4 days, just depending on my schedule, because I do work a full-time job and I have a life and I have a boyfriend and family, and I like to do things outside of just film videos, which doesn't always seem like it, but that is the case. My hair is wild today. It is currently 10:46 p.m. and I got this huge inspiration to film this video. I had these thoughts in my head that I was I need to write these down. I wrote them down in my little notebook where I keep notes for my YouTube videos and things like that. And I was just I need to get this out. I need to talk about this. And I did a little bit of research for my video tonight, and I wanted to share that with you. So as you can tell by the title and the thumbnail for this video, we are talking about two brands that are identical to one another. And I say that very lightly because one brand I feel does a really good job of coming out with new makeup. They kind of have what works for them, and they kind of work with that to expand it. And I feel they're on a good path. They found what works. They figured out their plan. They have all of their marketing stuff nailed down. Could probably do a little bit better, but they have it for the most part figured out the way that works for them. And there's another brand that is kind of at a point that it's make or break for them. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with a couple months ago, I believe back in February, the brand Becca Cosmetics announced that they were going to be shutting down their brand. They were going to stop coming out with new makeup. They were going to just sell what they had and be done with it. They were the pandemic hit us really hard. We feel we can't come back from that. So we are going to just cut our losses, move on, and, break up. They're going to break up the band, and no more new music, no more releases, launches, no more makeup. So this kind of got everybody thinking, why not Benefit? Why not a brand that puts out the same stuff every year? All of their holiday collections are just the same things thrown into a different palette, called a different name with a different theme. That's all basically the same, which is this type of thing that they've done. Their, thought and the theme that they go with always kind of sticks to the same thing. They just do a slight variation to that. And everybody was just kind of confused. I know I was confused. My initial thought was, why Becca? Why not Benefit? And it's kind of unfortunate that we feel that way. While it does suck that things didn't go right for Becca, it's also sad that we have these thoughts about Benefit, that we feel that Benefit as a whole is not doing what they're supposed to be doing as a brand to keep customers and consumers interested, that we now have these thoughts that this brand should shut down. And it's sad whenever it gets to that point that influencers, consumers, random people who just know a smidge about makeup like myself. So it's kind of sad that a lot of people, makeup and non-makeup, I feel some people that know about makeup, but they're not really super into the makeup world. If that, people that watch YouTube but aren't doing makeup, they don't do YouTube videos, things like that, that they are having these thoughts that this brand should close and should shut their doors and should stop making makeup. So I wanted to kind of discuss a brand that I kind of feel is tagging along with Benefit, and also maybe strategize or discuss what Benefit could do, what they could not do, what they should stop doing basically. And that's what we're going to talk about today. So now that we've got about 5 minutes into the video, we're going to start talking about the video. At least get into the thick of it. So I'm going to start posting up here a bunch of different images of sets and collections and palettes that have come out from both Physicians Formula and Benefit Cosmetics that can show you kind of what I'm talking about in terms of these products that are basically the same thing. So I'm going to discuss Benefit first. So we've seen Benefit come out with various products that were really good products. They, revolutionized the makeup industry. They really like set the game for like other people and how they were going to produce like makeup and how they were going to like market this makeup to their consumers. And I feel like it really started when they came out with their Hoola bronzer. That was kind of like the big thing that drew everybody in. I don't know if it was the first bronzer that came out, but I feel like it was one of the first that really like introduced bronzer to people. It really like gave them that whole new perspective of how to do makeup, that if we do the perimeter of our face, it will allow us to have this like outward glow and then inward like brightness, and it'll allow us to like make our faces look a little bit like elongated and like change the face shape and like kind of led into contour. I feel like that's kind of like bronzer like led its way and like allowed contour to become this thing. And I feel like Hoola was really one of those bronzers that everybody talked about, everybody used, everybody had. It's one that still to this day I feel like I need to have in my collection. I don't, but I feel like it's one that like everybody really hyped up and thought that it was really good. And then they've come out with the Hoola Light, which is supposed to be the lighter version for more light and fair skin tones, which came with, I believe, mixed reviews. It wasn't quite like the best product. It wasn't the best bronzer. It was good, but it wasn't as good as the Hoola. It wasn't as revolutionary and like in your face and like memorable as the Hoola, especially with like the experience that people had with it. And then they came out with various blushes and highlighters, and they were all very nice highlighters. They had the packaging in the box. It was packaging that a lot of people, had very mixed opinions and reactions to. Some people really liked the box. They thought that it was cool and it was different. Other people thought that the box kind of limited their use for the product. I know a lot of people have said they have a hard time getting their blush or bronzer brushes into the packaging because it's that square that's sunken very deep in until you get to the actual product, that it's hard for them to get their brush in, really swirl the product around and get it fully on the brush as they'd like to. So it kind of limits the application, but still people were very interested in trying the product and really giving it a shot regardless of that packaging. I know some people have even like depotted the product from the packaging so they could put it in a separate pan. They could keep it in a separate, Z palette or whatever you want to call it. And they've like done other ways to work around that so they can still use the product that they love. I know a lot of people really liked the cookie highlighter when it came out, and it was, they were all really nice products. Everybody just kept talking about how good the formula was. And then we started to notice this trend starting where all of these products that people liked individually were being sold in sets and collections and palettes featuring multiple ones. They had a bronzer palette, they had a blush palette, sometimes they had a highlighter palette. Then they would mix all of them together and just kind of do these different themed palettes and really try and like change things up. And while that's good to have maybe one or two of those and have different ones, I could understand having one for blush, one for bronzer, one for highlighter, maybe a couple of variations depending on skin tones and colors and things like that, and like the types of like certain highlighters go better with this skin tone or this skin type or color, and others go with others, and blah, blah, blah. But it got to the point that they were just releasing the same thing under a different name in a different palette over and over and over again. And people really started to notice, and I feel like this is something we've noticed for years now. I don't feel like it's something that happened just recently, and this is something they started doing through the holidays, I know especially. I feel like they've done it more so now, not with the holidays. It's just been kind of like whenever they feel like it. We haven't really seen too many new releases. They did come out with a foundation and a powder to go with it. I don't know if they even had a concealer with that, but they started trying to switch things up, but people weren't very perceptive to that. They didn't really like that. They weren't interested in that. And it wasn't something that people were really like interested in trying. So it kind of like flopped, failed, whatever you want to call it. And people just kind of like forgot about Benefit. And I feel like it's something that like we bring them up now just to kind of mock them and joke about, like make jokes about them and not really take them seriously as a brand, which is very unfortunate for a brand that had good products and had promise and was talked about for a long time. That's all of a sudden now, just the joke of the makeup industry. Like we joke about Becca, we joke about products that they've come out with. We joke about the invisible foundation that wasn't a foundation that they released that like nobody even knew what it was. It was just kind of like this random like moisturizer that, you know, moisturizing primer basically that you put on your face and just hope that something happened. Like, you didn't know what was going to happen, but you hoped it happened. But like, while they had releases like that, people still never really like hated them. You know, they weren't the worst. It always seemed like Benefit was kind of like slightly lower than them, which is always what people like think about whenever they talk about the, you know, closing of Becca and shutting their doors, is that Benefit was probably before Becca, but it just so happened that Becca was the one that shut down. And this is where we get into the physician's formula. I have noticed, and this is kind of something that like I've been noticing, but I just now like everything, you know, meshed into one, and it kind of like, hey, they're similar. So Physicians Formula has come out with several different box sets, several different palettes that had all of their collections, all of their things thrown into one. And I feel like for a while it was something interesting for fans to get if they didn't want to purchase all this stuff individually, especially because Physicians Formula is a drugstore brand. People are more likely to get something that will give them a better deal than to buy the things individually. Because Physicians Formula was a little bit more on the higher end of the drugstore prices, a lot of their products are $14.99. Sometimes they get down to the $10 range, but the majority of them are a little bit higher in price, that not always, you know, people want to pay the price individually. They'd rather get a collection that would be, you know, $20 for slightly less product, but you get multiple products in a palette. And I'm obviously going to be showing multiple sets and collections that are similar to that were interesting to people. I know the first one that came out had, I believe, a bronzer, a blush, and I believe 2 highlighters, or 1 highlighter and 2 blushes, but one of the products was a limited edition, I believe, highlighter. And I feel like that was very intriguing to people because it was kind of like, oh, it's something new we can try, even though the highlighter formula is not like people's favorite of the butter collection, of the butter, you know, line. It's not always the favorite. But then they also came out with a perfume with the butter scent. And I feel like that's what really separates them from Benefit and kind of like keeps them away from being at Benefit's level almost, is that they have this scent that goes with it that really keeps people coming back. And I don't know if it's even the scent or if it's like the formula itself that has like that butter formula or whatever you want to call it, that kind of like allows a product to be slightly more elevated than just a plain bronzer, blush, highlighter, perfume, what have you. And I feel like it's something that people started to notice. They started to realize, hey, this is different. We like this. We really like keeping along with the theme of the butter stuff. We're really interested. We want more, like, give it to us. And I feel like that's kind of because drugstore consumers and buyers are more forgiving in that aspect. We want more. Whereas I feel like on the higher end, even though Benefit's not quite at the luxury level, they're still kind of more high end than drugstore. They are products sold in Ulta and Sephora, which is a little bit different than Physicians Formula that's like in Ulta, but not quite, you know, not quite as prominent as Benefit is. And they kind of allowed themselves that little bit of like leeway to do what they wanted with their releases. And then they started coming out with collaborations and sets with different, you know, influencers and various celebrities. I didn't really know most of the celebrities. I knew who Casey Holmes was, but the rest of them I had never heard before. And it was just kind of like a favorites box of theirs. So if you were a fan, you could buy something like that. You could show your interest. You could show that you cared about the influencer or the celebrity or whoever and buy a product that they were supporting, that they were backing, something that really meant a lot to them, which is something that Benefit hasn't really done with their collections. They haven't really put someone's name on it, which I feel like might work to their benefit. It would allow them a little bit of like, well, even though these are all products that we've released before in various palettes, it's so-and-so's favorite, so this is why you should buy it. Not because it's just another cheerleader palette that like they're just slapping some new faces on and calling it something different, you know? So they came out with various ones, various palettes that had multiple influencers and, you know, various things like that. Then they got into the All-Star palette. And I'm going to link a video from Emily Noel down below where she talks about and reviews this palette. And it did not get received very well. Some of the products in this palette weren't the best. They had some that were marketed as limited edition. They had a matte formula of the butter bronzer, which is not much different than the plain butter bronzer, but they really marketed that it was slightly different. It had more products. It had different things that would convince you to buy it, that were things you couldn't get in an individual pan or packaging or what have you, which Benefit never did. And I know from watching Emily Noel's video that is, you can check out, that she didn't really care for a lot of the products in there, but that's always like, you test it. If you like it, great. If you don't, then like you can return it, you can sell it, you can get rid of it, you can throw it away, like whatever you want to do. And that kind of was like a slight difference in that they were putting out different products, new release like items within this palette. And I feel like they were switching it up because they did have some powders along with bronzers and highlighters and blushes and things like that, that it was kind of allowing for a little bit of a shift than what their traditional palettes were. And they also came out with a collection that had every single one of their products in it, which was like about every one of their products. They had a section that had bronzers in it. They had a section that had blushes. They had some lip products. They had a bunch of eyeshadows thrown in. And it was all kind of this big collector's box that was kind of like, here's the best of Physicians Formula in one box. Do with it what you will. And I feel like it'd be a good palette to get for either a beginner, someone who's younger, who just wants to get into makeup. And it also could be used for like makeup artists that could give them like all the things that they need to do a full face on somebody, or at least do like enough of a face on someone that like you can do the basics basically. And I feel like it definitely like separates Physicians Formula even from like other brands. Even though it's not something a lot of us would be interested in, it's still something that like, hey, maybe you want to try this, maybe it's something you could be interested in, maybe it's something that like you could put to use. So I feel like that's something that like one-ups Physicians Formula. Again, I feel like I'm like just repeating the same things. Like Physicians Formula always has a little bit more of a like they have a little bit more leverage, they have a little bit more like than Benefit does, which is kind of unfortunate because like we want Benefit to succeed. We want good things to come from them. We want them to be able to come out with good products, but it just doesn't seem like that's there. And I really feel like Benefit just needs to do a total like change. They really need to like step up the game. I feel like they need to start coming out with more eye and lip products, because I feel like that's kind of where they're lacking. They've come out with some here and there, but nothing that's ever really been like mind-blowing, that's really like caught your attention. And I also kind of feel like they need to start doing different launches and different themes to go with those launches, because when they keep up with the same themes, it just kind of gets a little bit stale. I mean, I know that's what people know them for, but it's almost to the point that like we're ready for something new. And I feel like that's what everybody's thinking with Benefit, is if we don't get something new, we're not going to buy from you anymore. And you're going to end up just like Becca is, where they're closing down and they're no more. And it'd be really unfortunate to see that happen. I don't think any of us ever want that to happen to any makeup brand. You know, whether we hate them or like them, whether we buy from them or not, we don't want them to close down because a lack of customer engagement. And I kind of feel like that's where Benefit really suffers, is that they don't always take into consideration what the customers and the consumers are telling them. And, you know, kind of like the underlying message that like, we're not buying this because we've seen this before. We have this already. We don't need another of the same collection again that has like basically the same products that you did last year, you know? So I really feel like Benefit really needs to like step up the game, or else it's done and over with. Let me know what you guys think. What do you think Benefit can do? What do you think Physicians Formula can do? Do you think there's anything good Benefit's doing that Physicians Formula is not? Do you think that Physicians Formula is doing better than Benefit, like I mentioned, or do you disagree with me? I'd love to keep a chat going in the comment section down below. And also let me know what you guys think of this kind of video. I feel like it's something different. We haven't really seen a whole lot of this on YouTube, and I'd kind of like to keep conversations like this going, kind of like either comparison videos or just talking about like maybe why a brand isn't doing so well, why they're failing, or even why they're doing so great, and how they can keep that going. So let me know down below if you like that. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to this video and ring that notification bell so you get notified of when I upload my videos. It's typically every 3 to 4 days, depending on my schedule. And I hope you guys like this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!